MC, and I've just got a quick intro for today's video. This is my first video of 2026, so I did just want to pop in and say Happy New Year to everybody. I'm just going to be having a little bit of fun today and working in my sketchbook here. I'm going to be drawing a marionette puppet, which I have already done, and while I do that, I'm going to be chatting to you a little bit about what my 2026 art goals are for this channel and beyond. So yeah, I'm just going to keep it to that, short and sweet. I just wanted to say Happy New Year, and if you want to grab your sketchbook or whatever you're working on right now and draw along with me, that would be a lot of fun. But yeah, let's get right into my sketchbook and the drawing. So I think I have 6 or 7 goals on my list here. And to start with, the first art goal that I have for this year is actually going to be something that I need your help with if you're watching this. And that is to get 100 to 1,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel. And I'm saying 100 to 1,000 right now because I don't actually know how ridiculous it would be to set 1,000 as a realistic goal for 1 year. So I'm setting my minimum goal for 100, but in my delusional mind, my goal is actually 1,000. So if you like what I'm doing on this channel, I'd really appreciate it if you'd help me achieve this goal and click the subscribe button. I plan on doing a bunch more art history videos, more random prompt jar videos, maybe using my experience in graphic design for some projects in the future, and I'm sure a bunch more other things that I don't even know yet. And I'm having a lot of fun with it. My broader goal, and the main thing that gets me really excited about the potential for this channel, is creating a little community of artists and maybe people who just like art. I'd love to talk to people in the comments, and I think getting to a point where I could start like a Discord server or something for the prompt jar, or even just on Instagram where people could share their different takes on the same random prompts that I pull for these videos would be so much fun. So that's like just a little dream I have for now. But if that all seems like something you would be interested in, I really hope that you want to stick around and join me for it. The next goal I have is something that I think and that I'm hoping will help me improve my content creation here and on my Instagram in a shorter form, and that is to develop a little bit more of a linear art process. I think it takes me a little bit longer than it should to finish a drawing, and with the domino effect, that means a longer filming and editing process for these videos, and I think that happens because my drawing process feels a little bit chaotic, or maybe I'm just not as confident in my drawing as I should be. I always find myself jumping around to different parts of the drawing, avoiding certain parts of it, hyperfixating on small details of the drawing way too early on in the process, and then I end up working and reworking those areas because I'm so uncertain of them. So I think if I could get back to the basics of a more step-by-step process, building up the drawing evenly and then focusing on the little things at the end, it would just be a lot more straightforward. And I think that this is going to be something that's going to help me out a lot with short form content as well. I watch other artists' reels on Instagram and stuff, and I just feel so clueless of how to create something similar of my own. I don't know how I'd even begin to cut down my drawings into like 30-second clips, or how I would film shorter sequences of my drawing because of how all over the place I feel when I work. And I think those artists just maybe have better formulas than I do for that kind of thing. So going back to the basics and the processes I learned in college is something that I'm going to be a lot more mindful of this year, starting with this drawing, hopefully. And honestly, I'm not too sure how I did with that yet. I did finish this drawing pretty quickly, and I made sure I finished the sketch before going into the details, but I think something else that helped me with the process of this drawing was going into it with confidence, which is probably something I need to work on while I'm creating this more linear art process. I think creating that art process will help with the confidence that I have in myself, like really knowing the steps, just having a better understanding of what needs to be done next to get the drawing where I want it to be. But even without a super concrete process, I definitely just need to believe in myself a little bit more. When I'm drawing, I still will get nervous and doubt myself, and that leads to me procrastinating on certain parts of the drawings, and I don't need to do that. I know I can draw, and I always find that I'm at my best when I just go for it and trust myself, and I always have the most fun that way too. So I think those things will kind of go hand in hand with each other. But yeah. Another thing about this drawing that is kind of a reflection of my goals for this year is that it's in my sketchbook, and I'd really like to work more in my sketchbook this year. I feel like it took a little bit of a back seat in 2025, and it's a good outlet and place for me to just have fun and draw whatever I want without any pressure. And I think a lot of my larger and best ideas and concepts come from things that I've tried in this sketchbook first. So I'd really like to get back into it more often this year. And I'm hoping that it's to the point where I've done enough that I can make another sketchbook tour video. My first video ever on this channel was a sketchbook tour where I went through the first 10 spreads of this sketchbook. So the next sketchbook tour would be spreads 11 through 20, and this video is me starting the 18th spread. But most of the spreads before this one are actually unfinished, so I've still got quite a bit of work to do. Because I like to do pretty much 100% finished illustrations in this sketchbook, it does take me a little bit longer to get things finished. So with the goal of wanting to develop a more linear drawing process, and now the goal of spending more time in my sketchbook, I'm hoping that will help me spend a little bit more time practicing that process as well, and I'll be able to get pages finished a lot more quickly. So because I've got a pretty decent head start on my next 10 spreads, I'm actually going to make this goal for 2 sketchbook tour videos this year. I think that might be a little bit ambitious just based on how little I did in my sketchbook last year, but I feel like I should challenge myself with this one, and we'll see how I end up doing when I check back in on these goals at the end of the year. I also have a few other sketchbooks that I use for different things on the go right now, so maybe I get one of those done and it goes towards this goal, but we'll see. The next goal I've got on my list is to do a self-portrait. I think the last time I would have done a self-portrait was probably 10 years ago for a project when I was in college, and I'd really like to do one now and be able to use it for my profile pictures on Instagram and here on YouTube. Right now, my profile picture is just one of the little cherub guys that I've drawn, and I haven't actually drawn one of those in a really long time, but I was using it as a profile picture when I didn't think I was going to associate my face with my account, which obviously is not the case now. And unfortunately for this goal, I don't actually have any ideas for one yet. But at some point this year, I'd really like to do a self-portrait that's reflective of the direction that I'm wanting and trying to go in with my art. So it's something that I'll be keeping in the back of my mind and looking for the inspiration for. And hopefully by the end of the year, I will have a new profile picture that is actually of my face. Next is that I'd like to do some work on a larger scale, and I think this goal is something that I'm going to keep to a more modest number, so I'd just like to complete one artwork that is on a larger scale, something that's on its way to being poster size. I obviously like to do a lot of work in my sketchbooks, and outside of that, the largest paper size I usually work with is somewhere around or under 9 inches by 12 inches, but I have quite a few ideas for things that I'd really like to do on a larger scale and put more detail into them, and just get to do more with them. I don't have any super concrete ideas with this goal, so it could involve getting to experiment a lot and figure out how I want to make art on a larger scale, which is really exciting. I think, like a lot of artists, you kind of have this daydream of what your work would look like in a gallery setting or something like that. And I feel like I don't even have anything that's even close to a grand enough scale to where I know to start with that daydream. So I'd like to start figuring that out. I've been wanting to make larger scale works like posters for years now. So thinking about the idea of figuring out how I want to work on a larger scale, getting to brainstorm those ideas and stuff like that is really exciting to me, like I said. And I have one more goal. It's my big goal. But before I get into that, I wanted to give like an honorable mention to a goal that I have. It might be more of a general goal, not really an art goal that I have, but it's kind of related, and that is to read more this year. Last year, I only read 12 books, which is a pretty good number for me, but I get a lot of my inspiration from the books that I've read. So this year, I've set my goal for 24 books. I'd like to double last year's total, read around 2 books every month at least. And I'm off to a good start because I've already finished 2 books that I started close to the end of 2025. So maybe my unofficial goal is actually 25 or 26 books. But for now, and especially at the end of the year, if I don't end up reaching this goal, I will absolutely take the treater points. But I finished The Alphabet versus the Goddess by Leonard Shlain, which I really, really liked, and I'd really recommend it. I think there's actually a lot of people in the world today that really need to read that book. It was published in like the late 90s, but I thought it was a really interesting and very modern feminist perspective on the cultural anthropology of religions and the man-madeness of God, literally man as in male, and how it's been used and reworked as a tool to suppress women. And yeah, like I said, I think a lot of people in the world need to read that book today. And a less serious and more fun one is that I finished the first book of the Nevernight trilogy by J. Kristoff, which I absolutely loved. I haven't been that stressed and invested in a book in such a long time. There was so much suspense, and once I reached the halfway point, I literally could not put it down. I needed to know what happened next. So I've already started God's Grave, the second book in the series, and I feel like Nevernight might have actually really reignited my interest in fiction, especially this genre of fiction. Personally, I'm not really into the wizards and elves and fairies types of fantasies, but this kind of fantastical, fictionalized Roman world is absolutely right up my alley. And if you know anything about God's Grave and about me, you know I'm so excited for the gladiatorial aspect of this second book. I cannot wait to get into it. But yeah, finishing that series is on my immediate list. And then I also have the Vengeful Realm trilogy, which is very similar, by Tim Faciola? Tim Faciola? I'm so sorry. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm really excited to read your books, though. But I have those on my to-read list now. In the same kind of lane, another fiction book that I want to read is The Odyssey by Stephen Fry, which I haven't gotten around to yet. And some nonfiction books that I've got on my list are The Roman Triumph by Mary Beard and a few other ones by Mary Beard, Fulvia by Jane Draycott, Agrippina by Emma Southon and her new book Service when it comes out, The Agony and the Ecstasy by Irving Stone, and I've already started Dinner with King Tut by Sam Keane. So I've got lots on my list, and we'll see at the end of the year how I do with that goal. but I'm always looking for more inspiration from books, so I definitely want to read more and give myself more opportunities to stumble across more inspiration like I have in the past. But my big goal for this year, it's pretty plain and simple, not much explanation needed, and honestly, I expect myself to complete this one pretty soon, and that is to open an online shop. This is something that I've wanted to do for years, and it's something I finally feel ready to do. I just need to work out some of the more technical details of it, so I should be able to make a more official announcement about that very soon. So you can stay tuned for that, which you could subscribe for. You could subscribe and stay tuned for that. But yeah, those are my art goals for 2026. I feel like these are pretty reasonable for me with just the right amount of delusion, and I'm really excited and motivated. I'd really like to take a big step in my art journey and career this year, so I'm feeling ready to push myself. And as usual, before I take off, I'll take a little bit to talk about the drawing I'm doing in this video. It took me a bit of time to decide what I wanted to draw for this video, actually. I knew because I wanted to have a little bit more fun in my sketchbook recently that was going to be the location for this drawing, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do in it. One thing I had been wanting to try drawing for a long time was puppets, and a marionette puppet is actually something that I want to draw in a larger project kind of soon, so that's when I decided to kill two birds with one stone and use this opportunity for fun, but also some practice as well. And I just hadn't drawn one of these clowns that I really enjoy doing, so that's kind of how it all came together, I guess. I don't know if there's somebody out there that would try to add loads of meaning to a drawing like this. A puppet could have some interesting symbolism for sure. The sad expression and the clown, and they kind of look literally depressed, like deflated and exhausted maybe. And with how this year has started, I totally get how this guy is feeling, even though personally I think I felt more angry than sad. But honestly, clowns like this in my sketchbook are really just for fun. They're easy for me to draw, and I have a lot of fun with them. The costumes and the makeup, and earlier in my sketchbook, I actually drew one of these guys as a Jack-in-the-Box, so adding a puppet of one felt kind of like a sequel. And I should actually do a music box wind-up one in the future. That would be pretty cool. It makes me think of that part in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang where Dick Van Dyke and Sally Ann Howes are performing for the king or whoever it is. And that's kind of a really funny coincidence, actually. I didn't plan this at all, but the nose of this clown is actually the exact nose of the child snatcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I did a sketch of his nose in my ugly sketchbook to practice and have an exact reference for this drawing. So I don't know why, but I've really got Chitty Chitty Bang Bang on the mind for this drawing. And honestly, I never really liked that movie as a child. It's a really obscure Disney movie, but I feel like somehow everybody remembers it and remembers being terrified of that child snatcher. He's one of the creepiest villains I think I can remember from my childhood. But anyway, the original drawings that I've done of these clowns was in illustrations that I would call Fools in Love. And they were these sad clowns kind of torturing themselves for the sake of being in love. And some of them are on my Instagram if you're interested in checking them out. But they were all sad and doing stupid things that weren't good for them, I guess because love feels worth it sometimes. So they were based off of classic gestures and very inspired by Rococo and Venetian art. So very indulgent, and in my mind, I see them as very much androgynous characters with no gender. I think all the details of them are very much a mixture of masculine and feminine features, and I do actually have a few more ideas for them where I could play quite a bit more with the mixed gender aspects. I'd actually really like to do a few of them in color and maybe redraw some of the old ones that I've done in the past and really get to play with the sickly, playful pastel and gold Rococo color palettes. I think it would probably add even more meaning to the original concepts that I had come up with for these. But yeah, in my sketchbook, these are really just for fun. This one was really experimental, and I think the end result is actually really successful. I really like this drawing, and I'm really excited to draw a couple of these puppets for a bigger project and get to put more detail and more time into them. I think I'll have a lot of fun with it. But yeah, I think that's it for me for this one. I know we're off to a really rough start this year, but I hope that we don't let the fascists get us down, because that's what they want. Another goal I have for this year is honestly to be louder and queerer and a bigger pain in the ass than ever. And I hope if you feel safe enough that you do too. And if you don't feel safe enough, I will be doing my best to be loud enough for 10 people, because I'm really sick and tired of this shit, honestly. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Consider subscribing if you did and helping me with one of my goals. I'd really appreciate it. But please take care of yourself, and you'll see me in the next one.